technically I run the brokerage. So I have about 20 agents. So I run our brokerage. I do all of our acquisitions in state and out of state. So all of our flips in Connecticut, I acquire all of them. I list all of them. I raise capital on them. And then I still do my personal training business in the morning, which it is like it just keeps me grounded and it keeps me sane and it makes me feel like I am making a difference in the world, which is very fulfilling to me.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Walk to Wealth podcast. If you're tuning in on YouTube or any of the podcast directories, make sure you do yourself one teeny tiny little favor and make sure to give us a follow because I don't want you to miss out on any of the amazing guests I got coming on this year. And without further ado, I have a returning guest. Listen to this. If you're new to the podcast, you might not know who she is, but for all of the OGs, she was my fourth ever interview. If you look back, she was episode number 14 and 15 of the podcast. So literally about 200 episodes ago, she was on, and over 2 years ago that was. So sheesh, it's crazy how time has been flying. We were just catching up before we hit record, and like time has been moving. So Carly, for anyone who hasn't had the opportunity to get to know you, to get to meet yet, tell us your elevator pitch because you're in a totally different spot than you were back when we had our original podcast episode. So remind everyone, who are you and what do you do?
I wish I could remember where I even was 2 years ago, to be honest. Again, as we were talking about, blur.
Yeah.
Hey y'all, Carly Worth. I am originally from Connecticut and now I live part-time in Dallas, Texas. I got into the real estate space in December of 2020 as an agent. So the last time I was on this episode, I was just
You were licensed with KW. I think you
Yeah,
were
I
about
was
a year.
KW at the time.
Yeah, you're still with KW. That's before you transition. Way before you transition.
No, I think I was with Glenstone and then I came to KW shortly after our podcast because then I was on your 100th episode while I was at KW. Well,
yeah.
Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah.
I lose track of time. So I'm like 3.5 years in now. So I guess when I was first on here, I was like a year and a half in. So I was just working on the investment side as an agent, just doing your typical buying and selling on the investor side. And now as in the last 10 months, I am an owner, started off as a managing partner in Glenstone Real Estate Brokerage with my now business partner who I own, I think I'm at 47 doors. I kind of lost track. 47 doors and doing a 36 duplex development out in Oklahoma. And now we're also expanding into other states as well. So last week I was offered ownership position in Glenstone, which is absolutely amazing. So I have 3 awesome business partners who are all in business together for 12 years. Now I raise private capital. I obviously own personally, and I coach agents as well on the investment side. And the newest thing that we are doing is we're actually building partnerships for ordinary people, even like you, John, who just have capital they want to invest, but don't want to own real estate or don't know how to own real estate and go into different markets and that sort of thing. So we basically individually build people's portfolios as partners with them. So really cool new concept, kind of making real estate automatic. So yeah, that's what I've been up to the past year and a half, 2 years since I've been on here.
She's crazy how time flies.
I know.
So let's kick things off. So normally, like, as you know, I get into the backstory of like how you got to where you're at right now. But like we already got your backstory. So like, fill us in. Like, since like we last spoke on a podcast at least 2 years ago, like what has been like, how have you grown, like as personally one, and then 2, how has that helped in transition to everything you have going on with business? Like, bring us up to speed. Like, how have you grown? How have you been growing since then?
It has been the craziest, most exciting, most blessing year of my life. Really like on all levels. From a personal perspective, I always love growing and, whether it's reading books. So lately I've been really into like the capital raising aspect of things and helping people create passive income while, lending out their capital. So I personally invest my capital as well. I don't know, I try not to keep track because it stresses me out. I probably have $500,000 in cash right now out into loans.
Yeah.
And so I'm, a private lender now too. So it helps reading those books, and it helps getting people to trust me if I'm investing in the deals that I'm also pitching. So I raise the capital for short-term flips, and then so flip and holds and flip and resell. So most of my, capital raising is short term. We have one deal where we have like a 10% partner in it, because they really needed tax benefits and that sort of thing. So reading those kind of books, reading real estate loopholes from like a tax perspective, therapy, because everyone knows real estate is freaking crazy enough to make you lose your mind.
Yeah.
Um, so from therapy to exercising daily and just making sure, I take that time for myself. I'm definitely, even though I'm at a position where, I make more money now and I run multiple businesses, I have more time, or maybe it's just me prioritizing like my health and wellness and mental health over work at this point. Because I've realized, throughout the first, especially 2 years of my career, like if you're not mentally healthy and you don't put yourself first, and you're not eating right and you're not exercising and you're not sleeping, you're pretty useless. So, I've been making sure that I do that. And so I can be my best self, and therefore it makes business a lot easier.
No, 100% agreed. And that's actually so. Our title of our last episode was how it's increasing longevity and preventing burnout in real estate. That was the title of our last episode because you were at the time you were talking about how you were working like tons of hours, people hitting you up in all different times of the day. You almost felt like you never could get a break from real estate because of all the times you were always available for everyone all the time. And
I
that
got
like kind of two phones, yeah. Two phones, one for business, one for personal. And so
yeah,
like so real estate aside for a quick second, let's put real estate aside to like now you're like really prioritizing like even more so. And I talked about how about you're able to do that because you have multiple businesses, you're raising capital, you're selling deals, you're still in real estate, and so you're doing a lot,
yeah,
and it's in the same industry but like different verticals within that same industry, right? But it's
correct.
still different things. And so it's like you have different business partners now, so not like you're not the only person running the show. Like how are you able to like juggle all of that and then still make time for living here in Connecticut, living part-time in Dallas, and still working on your health? Like what's the process? I know back then you gave us a lot of strategies on that, so like what are you doing now?
Yeah. I guess I just kind of retrained myself, I guess is the best way to put it. And like having business partners, like so now I run the brokerage. So I have about 20 agents. So I run our brokerage. I do all of our acquisitions in state and out of state. So all of our flips in Connecticut, I acquire all of them, I list all of them, I raise capital on them, and now we're replicating what we've built in Connecticut out of state as well. So that just adds a whole other layer. And then I still do my personal training business in the morning, which
Hmm.
it is like it just keeps me grounded and keeps me sane. And it makes me feel like I am making a difference in the world, which is very fulfilling to me. So I still do that probably about 15 hours a week. Um, but with all of that being said, it does help having partners because we all do a different part of the business. So like my personal holding company where I have the development and like the 40 whatever 46, 47, 48 doors. Once you get that to a place where everything's rented out, it's calm. So it's crazy for a little bit while you're rehabbing and refinancing and renting and all that stuff. It's crazy, but once you get the right people in that position as like property management, it takes a lot off of you. So it was crazy for a while, but I would make sure I'd still get up early. I would always try to get a workout in before before clients started. But now I kind of give myself the grace. I'm like, I'm a business owner. Like I run 4 different companies. Like that is a blessing, and I run my own business so that way I can do what I need to do when I need to do it. So if I need to go
Mm.
to a doctor appointment, I build my schedule around a doctor appointment. I like doing yoga on Mondays and Thursdays at lunchtime. So I build that into my schedule and I go do my yoga. Um, although I did transfer to a night class on Mondays because I like the teacher better. But I can do that because I have built myself to be able to do that. And you know what? I've gotten to the point where I realize nothing in real estate is an emergency. That was like, I had to drill that in my head. It's actually still my screensaver on my phone. There's no emergency in real estate. Like I had literally had to remind myself of this every day because I'd be like trying to do something healthy for myself and I'd be like, texting in between, or like I'd be in therapy and like worrying about my phone ringing for an hour, and it just not healthy. Um, so yeah, I would say those couple little things, and just realizing that when you are in a good space emotionally, mentally, and physically, your business is going to flourish, and everything's just going to come easier. It's kind of like the law of attraction. So yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at with that.
Yeah, that's dope because as I remember last time we talked, it was at that stage where you're also just coming out of that. So I think you already had two phones by then, and you were putting the email subject line. Yeah, you had the subject line in the email like, "Hey, any emails written to me after so and so time, I'll get back to you at this time," or something like that. And
Yeah,
so it's
I
like,
did have to get rid of that though because I think that all the bounce backs were driving people nuts. But now I just I don't answer them until I can get to their email. So
yeah,
they're not getting 14-second replies.
yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And now, like I said, that's part of the thing, like with being in business, right? You have the beauty of creating your own schedule. And like for example, this morning I went swimming for like an hour because I'm working on. I got a little side project right now that I'm working on, trying to get onto a reality show. And so I'm not.
What?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I thought you were into like training for a triathlon or something, but
I'm not.
reality? What?
No,
You want
reality show.
to
We'll see.
show?
I'm not in. I'm not in. So I can't. I'll tell you after we finish recording. But so I'm like, all right, but I got to get right. So like these next few weeks, right? If I make it, it's probably gonna be sometime either start early next month or end of this month potentially. So it could be
Oh,
pretty
wow.
soon if I make it. And it's just like, boom, I went swimming this morning, but then right after that, I went shopping with my grandma, got some groceries for the house, and then now I had pretty much, this is my third interview, so I had back to back to back podcast interviews. Then after this, then I could decide what to do next, and that's like the beauty of business. Also, it's like if you don't work, then like nothing comes to you, but it's like I'd rather have that freedom, that choice to work or not to work, because at the end of the day, like being in business, everything falls on you regardless, whether you work 100 million hours a week or you work 1 hour a week. I love the fact that you can still just like you can you're in charge of your results
Yep.
and you get out what you put in. And like I love that. And you mentioned too a lot about you're able to do a lot because of business partners. So like a lot of business owners, especially at my age, our age, right?
Yeah.
We got friends and we have good ideas and like, hey, we should get into business together. And like boom, next thing you know, a few months later you don't have any friends. And that's not to say like that you shouldn't start a business with your friend or with your significant other or whatever. Because I've interviewed people on this podcast who are making crazy money, right? With people that they're friends with, people that they're married to and have business. So I'm not gonna say one right way is right or one way is wrong, but like
Right.
just from an overall perspective, someone wants to start a business with a friend because, as you said, with a partner, you get a lot more leverage. You don't have to wear all the hats anymore. And so you're able to do more and get more for what you put in. So it's like, what are some of the things, like when you decided, like, when this opportunity to become, get into business with your partners, like what was going through your head at that time?
So I for me it's very hard to leverage and use other people's help to accelerate, just because I function at a very different level and a business capacity than most people. So it's hard for me to let go of any sort of control. But I will say, like, my business partners, we were never like, we met through business. So we had that business relationship, and then we kind of just became friends because we worked together. So because going into business with friends, I do think it can be very I think it could be a little dicey, but they were business friends first.
Hmm.
And I think just so we all do something very different. So just on my partnership, so my business partner Chris and I own DW Equity Partners and DW Capital Partners. And so for us, like I do the acquisition, like I'm the networker person, I'm the capital raiser, like I find investors and like so I do all of I guess like the frontline work where I'm socializing with people, and then he's more of like behind the scenes. So he runs a construction company, he runs a property management company. So he handles more of like the financing and the work aspect and scope of work and that sort of thing. So it's perfect. So like I'm kind of more on the front, and then he's more in the middle, and then we both come together at the end to make the asset perform. So it takes a little bit of workload off of you having partners that are good at different things. And now in our other partnership with all four of us as owners, I do the acquiring, the capital raising. Brian does the underwriting and gets, all the deal, all the numbers. He's like the number guy. And then we have the other Brian who does the lending and the refinancing and scope of work for draws with the bank and all that sort of stuff. And then Chris does like the project management and property management running side. So we all have a very different, distinct role. And that it does allow you to get a deal done with a quarter of the amount of work.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
I
that
think
makes.
that's cool.
Okay, so where I kind of going with the question is like, how you determine if that person is someone you want to get into business? That's what I'm kind of looking for, because there's a
Yeah.
lot of people who are good in areas that you're weak, but like kind of to what we were talking about before off camera, like if they're not aligned with you, right, they're not even gonna get in the door, right? It's like they're because one of the
They
things
don't
I was
believe in
thinking
Jesus.
into,
Jesus is the man. If they're out,
yeah, no,
we
100%.
don't speak too
It's
much like that in I guess in business partners, but
I mean, so let me ask you, like like for you, what was like going through your head, like how do you scope out someone that is worth being like? Of course, someone has to be good at what they do, yeah,
correct.
but like, do do you ever run into like issues because like how do you find someone that's like aligned with your vision of where you want to take? That's what I'm kind of getting at, like because
Gotcha.
you can get into business with someone that's really great at what you do, they just have a different vision, and so you're gonna split ways eventually, right? Or you're gonna get into an issue where it's like you want to handle it a certain way and they want to handle it another way because you guys have different visions. So how do you get someone? Well, first you got to find them someone that's good, right? But once you find someone competent, how do you kind of scope out the fact that like they're actually aligned, make sure they're actually aligned with the vision you have and what you want to do, so that you don't really have issues that arise, as
That,
you minimize the potential issues that can arise.
that's a super good question. So I will say that my first partnership in business was with Chris alone, and we are so incredibly aligned. Not only are we good at different things, but like our goal isn't to sell our real estate. Our goal is to use the Burr method through every deal to get all of our money back plus extra.
Hmm.
So, on those refinances, you don't pay capital gains on those. So, like, that is a money maker. And then you own the asset essentially for $0 in, and then you cash flow and build equity along the way. Um, so for us, we both didn't want to sell, which is half the battle because you have
Hmm.
business partners who only want to flip to sell and make quick money. So, you have to make sure you're aligned, like longevity wise, like where do you want to be in 10 years? Well, we both wanted to own as much real estate as humanly possible. We want to own, $100 million plus in the next couple years. And with that also being said, we we have the same strategy, which is probably the most important thing, but we also agree a lot of the way that things are done, which makes, I know, like in other partnerships, like, there's a lot of conflict of how to handle this one thing, but we both literally just see things the same way. Like, we have
Hmm.
never had a disagreement. We've never not been on the same page. So again, that's super important, but some of those things you don't figure out until you actually work with people.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone has different work styles. But I would say from a real estate perspective, like what is that person's goal? Like, do they only want to hit 100 units and then they're out? Like that's all they want to build, or do they only
Mm-hmm.
want to get to $20,000 a month in passive income and then they're done buying? So, but for us, we want to go as far as we humanly possibly can and own as much real estate. We don't have a cap. We're not like, oh, once we get to 50 million, like we're chilling, we're done. Um, so I would say like that's very important, especially if like between an age difference, we're only like 6 years apart.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so even though he has a family and kids and I don't, like we're still very aligned from a business perspective. So you kind of want to see, if you're working with someone who's older, they might only want to do it for like 5 years and then they're done and they just want to retire. I always say I want to retire by the time I'm 35, but I know that I'm just going to keep working, even if I
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
So I knew them for a while before, and I think that really helps. So I would say, feel the people out first and kind of observe from a distance. So Brian and Brian, I wasn't like full blown business partners with them until, last week.
Mm-hmm.
So I've known them for like 3 years before I got into business with them. So I think it's good to kind of feel someone out before you jump into bed with them, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um, because you don't know, personality wise could be very different. That whole thing, you never really know kind of what you're getting.
Yeah. 100%. It's like what you mentioned, like with like friends and stuff like that. For example, like living with someone. Like
Yeah.
let's say you go to a conference with someone, or rooming with someone. Like you never really know what someone's like until you like room with them. And it's like, thank God, like I went to a conference and I went to FinCon. It's a personal finance creator, like all creators and content creators of all sorts in personal finance, and a lot of them are in real estate, tax, invest, all the different things that fall under real estate investing and
Right.
personal finance and all the different avenues, right? Budgeting, credit repair, life insurance, all that stuff. We're all there. Um, and I was rooming with my boy Rob, and like now me and Rob, I think we've been to two, maybe three conferences since that one. So like that's my boy. But
That's your
yeah, so
business.
like now if we're going to a conference, like I know like Rob, that's my go-to guy. Shout out to Rob. But
Rob,
yeah,
the one I know, right?
I think you know him. Yeah, Tracy.
Good guy. Good guy.
Yeah, great guy, and he was always a great guy. But then, as I said, once you room with someone, you see them in a different way, in a different light. And it's like, man, that's still my guy. And so, like, well, there's some people, thank God, like for example, snoring. Like, you, yeah, I can't room with someone that
Couldn't
snores.
do
So I'm
it.
a light, yeah, I'm
I
a
can't
light sleeper.
with
I'm,
someone
I'm,
with
yeah, light sleeper, so I could not do it. But and that applies to business because, like, let's say you're someone who values, you know, the relationship over the profits, right? You'll be more willing to like maybe lose a couple of dollars here and there if it meant ensuring that relationship for someone who's profit over first. Where it's like, nope, what as long as the bottom line is the biggest number possible, they would manage the situation a certain way, and so back to what you were saying, you got to feel them out, definitely get perspective, and
I would say
um,
stress level too. Like it- you kind of got to balance each other out. Like I'm like a pretty calm person, but like the second someone like messes with me or my money or like my business, I get very like I turn it on. Like I go 0 to
yeah,
100.
yeah,
And
no in
versus
between,
yeah, I'm like I'll calmly try to explain it, and then if that person just like is not getting it, like I had an old PM and she like completely messed up my asset, like
yeah,
really did. And I was freaking pissed. But Chris can be kind of like a little less emotional
yeah,
when it comes to like investments, where it's like our money is in that asset. So me, I'm already like gonna be more protective or like
yeah.
aggressive
You're
about.
invested, literally. You're literally invested.
Literally, I'm like, I have like $250,000 in here. Like, I need it to perform.
Yeah,
Get it done. And Chris can be like, he'll be like talking to me and we'll both be like really angry, but then he can kind of be like a mediator with that person versus I'm like, I can't because I'm angry right now. And if I pick up the phone, it's not going to go well right now.
Yeah, no, 100%,
Being
100%.
self-aware, being, having a partner who's more grounded in a stressful situation.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of things. You have to
yeah.
really balance each other out in like every aspect.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. You mentioned too, like one of the things that you and Chris both have in common is that you guys are both like just trying to take it to
Take it
whatever
all.
level is the end level, if there even is an end level, right? You guys are trying to just take it as far as you guys can go. Let me ask you, that's not the majority of people, right? As you probably already know, and like most people, there's a certain point where they're just like, "Right, I want to get to this point and I'll be satisfied."
Right.
And then there's some people who just like, I love playing the game, whatever game it may be. In your case, it's real estate investment, right? Right.
Yeah.
So it's like I
For
love
sure.
playing the game, so I'm just gonna keep playing the game, right? There is
That
no
is
end goal.
literally
There is no high score. So it's like, what kind of drive? Like, where do you think that comes from personally?
so that is 150% Chris. And I am definitely like, I was just talking to my boyfriend about it last week. I was like, if I could guarantee that everyone I love and care about, and including myself, will live a long, happy, healthy, just peaceful, no struggle type of life, I would give up everything. Like, I
Hmm.
would literally hand it all over right now for that guarantee. I'm not really someone who's super attached to money due to like the way that I grew up. Like, to me, it's like it's a security thing, but I don't need to be the richest person in the room. I don't need to make millions of dollars a year. So for me, it's not really a money thing. It's more of like you said, the game. Like, how
Hmm.
far can I get? I don't really do it for the money. I
Money.
do it
Money's
for
a
like
byproduct.
correct.
Yeah, you're
But
playing the game well, and because you're playing the game well, a lot of money is coming your direction. But like,
exact
that's not the reason why you're playing the game.
correct. Chris just like literally like his wife, what she was in the background one day, she's like, who needs $250 million in real estate? Like, why is that a goal? Like, what do you even do with that much money? And I'm like, I hate to say it, but like, she's got a point. Like,
Yeah.
it makes sense. But like, I think it's more of like, how far can you push yourself? And the money is just, like you said, a byproduct of how good you are at what you do. Um, so for me, it's not about the money. Like, I don't even keep track of how much money I make because in my mind, I'd be like, I don't need any more money this year. Like, I'm good. I'm coasting for the rest of the year. Like, see y'all next year or maybe the year after. Like, I value quality of life and freedom. Like, I like traveling. Like, I was just in Cancun a week and a half ago, and a week before that I was in Florida, and like, I'm closing deals from wherever I am, but I value that freedom. So like,
Hmm.
I would sacrifice, you know,
Not
money.
becoming a multi-billionaire.
Yeah, like, to me, I'm like, for what? Like, why do I need that much money? Like, there's only so much you can have in your life. Like,
Yeah.
do I want a yacht? I mean, not really. Like, I'll
So
just rent a yacht or something. Like, I don't
yeah.
know.
So let's talk about it. So like, how do you go about like, and what tips can you go about to prioritizing like and this defining what it is? Because you can get very easily lost in what you do, right? Especially once you start getting good at it, right? It gets even easier to get lost at what you do because now you're good. And when you're good at anything, it tends to be a lot more fun, right?
Yeah,
When you're starting off, and you probably still remember back when you were starting in real estate, right? But now it's like as you said, you were just in Cancun, you were just in Florida. You get to enjoy. You have business partners, so you're not wearing all the hats anymore. You're leveraged out. You're still doing therapy. You're still doing your personal fitness thing, which fulfills you. And so it's like now, like your life is being centered around what you enjoy versus centered around your business and making time for what you enjoy. And so it's like, how do you kind of like? What's your process of going about like, all right, what do I want to keep in? Because a lot of times most people don't even think about it. They get into something, and then next thing you know, they're tunnel vision, and by the time they look up, they kind of lose touch of everything they used to like. Used to. There was a point in time where like I wasn't playing basketball, I wasn't watching anime. I love watching anime. Wasn't watching anime. Wasn't playing basketball. Wasn't doing any of the things I love to do myself. It's just like I forget where it was. It's like sometime last year, And I was like, nah, I'm going too far in the wrong direction. I need to dial it back. And even if I move a little slower, so be it. I'm okay with that because like at least I'll keep touch with all the things that outside of business I still genuinely love to do. So like, what's kind of your process?
Um, I'm definitely someone that if I'm going through something, like emotionally, and I've had a really, really tough last probably like 6, 7 months of just there's a lot. There's a lot of weight, there's a lot of sadness, there's a lot of anxiety and stress and like just hard things. Like I'm going through a really tough season of life right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um and so I tend to throw myself into work as a distraction and I've kind of realized that and I think um back in February I was home visiting and my grandma is like my most favorite human in the world and so I always would go home and hang out with her and visit because I used to spend like when I lived back in Connecticut, I was there like 4 days a week. Like her and I would
Yeah.
just sit there. We'd have wine night together. We'd go to like brunch. Like just she is like my favorite human. And she was fighting cancer for like 11 years, and the cancer that she had, like people really only live like a year and a half. So I had a lot of time with her, which I'm very blessed for. But when I was home in February, um, she told me that her cancer was terminal and there was nothing that they could do. And that was probably the hardest moment in my life. And I think I really woke up. Like, I was so focused on work that, like, I lost sight of like what life is truly about and just knowing like I had limited time with her like she was told in January so and she passed a month ago um I think just having that awakening like wow like life really is precious and like if you don't live in the moment and you don't live for like the important things in life like you really lose sight of what life is about. Life isn't about being a millionaire. Life isn't about how much real estate you can own, how successful you can be, like how successful other people think that you are. And I don't really want to be known for that. Like when I die, like I want to be known for like the person I was, not oh, like this girl was like, a real estate mogul and kicked ass. Like, yeah, that's great. That's great. I'm glad you think that about me. But I want people to be like, she was such a great person and she was inspirational and she was helpful and motivational to people. And I think that moment really put into perspective. I was like, I need to start enjoying life and living in the moment and living in the now and not just letting the days pass me by because I'm so focused on work. Like, and I think that happens to a lot of people. And I know, they say things like when you're washing your hands, like while you're washing your hands, try to smell the soap. Like be present in the things that you are doing as you are doing them because we just become so routined that we're missing everything around us. Like life is passing us by and our time with loved ones and friends is limited. Like life is not guaranteed. And it's just, you got to get to a point where it's like you don't lose sight of what life is because you can't take your money to the grave with you.
Mm-hmm.
So it comes a point where you really have to prioritize what is important to you in life. And maybe some people they're still at that stage in life where money is the most important thing to them. But like I know for a fact like God will always provide and I know the opportunities will come to me. Ones that are meant for me will come to me when they're meant to come to me. And the less you try to force things, the more successful you will be, in my opinion.
100%. I agree. You hit a lot of points there, right? And one of the big ones were just like I talked about this a couple times in the podcast and multiple podcasts actually, was just like who do you want to do life with? Right. That's the
Yeah.
one thing I was thinking about a lot last year's. Because the only thing we get to take with us are the memories, the experiences. I have a photo wall I could show you, and it's like me in college right here, and I have all of these photos of like from me back in high school, me when I was younger, and like honestly, there's a lot of photos from the past year or two that I have yet to add on. It's just like it could probably be bigger, but it's almost the size of my whole wall, at this point. And like I just want to keep on making it bigger and bigger and bigger, just like each experience, each moment, like added up to make me who I am now. And without every single one of those, I wouldn't be the person I am. And it's just like I don't know why. I just spent so much time last year thinking about like, yeah, who do I want to do life with? It was just like one of the like main focus questions I had at the front of my mind all the time. And it's just like
And it's
I got a lot
intention.
more intentional.
That's
Yeah,
intentionality.
100%. And I think I may have told you a little bit. I may have, I forget, but even with my podcast, like I stopped interviewing strangers. Like the amount of emails I've gotten over the past 2.5 years since I've launched this podcast about, hey, this 9-figure entrepreneur and this 1 millionaire, multimillionaire personal finance, financial advisor, and all these other people, Wall Street Journal bestselling authors, you name it. All they're doing is just hiring people to code email. So one, I don't even look at them at first place, but like two, it's like, oh, I love your show. I emailed one person back. They're like, I love your show. I was like, which episode? Like, mate, did you start listening to the podcast? Never got a response back. You love my show. Which one's your favorite? Like, which episode's your favorite, right? And like, I just stopped letting people on because, like, well, I mean, one, it's also easier to talk to people. Like, even if me and you weren't, we talked about 20 minutes before we even started recording, 15 minutes. Right? It's like, I mean, we're running behind on time now with like everything, so we're probably gonna go over. But like, when you already know a person, it makes it so much easier to have a conversation. But also, it makes whatever you're doing that much more enjoyable. It's just
100%.
like, and that's just one example with the podcast, but like with everything, it's like being intentional as like how you want to spend your time. Like even now, I said I've been playing basketball literally almost every day for like the past 3-4 weeks.
Because
Like
it brings
almost,
you joy and it makes you happy.
yeah, no, exactly. And it's like I could do it, but whenever, and it's something that time just stops. Like it doesn't exist. I'm just in the game, and especially if I'm winning, that makes it a whole lot more fun. When
Oh yeah,
I'm
when you
when
you're
I'm
like, okay,
playing pickup, yeah. If I got a bad team, I'm playing pickup. I'm like, damn, this sucks. That's the only thing I'm thinking the whole time.
I'm gonna go back to work now.
Yeah, like, I could.
I try to pick something every day that makes my heart happy. I don't do it
Mm,
for anybody but me. Whether that's curling up and reading a book, whether that's going on a walk, going to a workout class, seeing a friend. I do something every day that makes me feel like I am living this life for me.
mm.
Obviously, I'm living it for the other people, but if I'm not happy and I'm not at my best, I can't serve everyone else around me to the full capacity either.
No, 100%. You can't pour from an empty cup, right?
Nope.
You have to pour from the overflow. That's the only way to do it. That's the
You
only
got
way
to
to
get
do
all
it.
those love tanks full, fill them up,
Yeah.
all
So
six of them.
to pivot a little bit, I wanted to ask you earlier, because you mentioned that money doesn't motivate you anymore, but
Mm-mm.
also like when you're in entrepreneurship, not getting rewarded eventually incentivizes you to just stop working. So it's like, how do you reward yourself to like keep incentivizing you to keep it going, right?
Well, my first apartment building, or I should say, my first ever investment was an apartment building,
Yeah. Well, how
and
much unit was that? What, 30 unit? I think or something like that was
36, yeah,
36. Yeah.
36, and it was so funny. So when I first got into real estate, I kind of told myself, I was like, all right, Carly, you're probably not gonna get a deal your first year because like 90% of people don't. So like cut yourself some slack because I'm a perfectionist. So I kind of like managed my expectations, but then I ended up making six figures my first year. So I was like, this is great. I'm going to go get my dream car. So I show up at Porsche with my dad and I'm like looking at a white Porsche Macan with red interior. And I'm like, I think I want the beige. And I'm like, pause. Like, what am I doing? Like, yes, okay, I crushed my first year, but like I didn't earn this yet. Like, who knows what next year is going to look like if the market shifts? Like, chill out, Carly. Like, you don't need this ridiculous car.
Yeah.
Um, so fast forward 2.5
Two.
years later, um, I buy my apartment building and I'm like, I'm buying a Porsche Macan for myself as a present. And I was like, this sounds crazy. And my mom and my boyfriend were like, no, you deserve it. Like, do it. So I'm like prowling. There's a very specific year and model that I wanted, and it needed to be white with a full sunroof and beige interior. Like, I was very specific. So I ended up finding it in Oklahoma. And I'm like, well, this is meant to be. My apartment building's in Oklahoma. I'll go up and show my mom that apartment building, and then we'll shoot over and I'll buy this car and find another, find a Nissan dealership nearby to sell my car that I currently owned. And that is exactly what I did. So I bought myself a Porsche Macan for my first investment property. For my first ever deal, which happened my first week of being licensed, I bought myself a Michelle watch. So for those of you who don't know, it's like the women's version of like a Rolex, not at the same caliber. That was probably a bad whatever. An Omega. It's equivalent to a women's Omega. We'll go
Okay.
with that. And then a week later, I was sitting there, and every time I walk to my car, I'm like, "You are a beauty." Like, I look at my car every day. I'm obsessed. However, I was like, I don't need this car. And I told my mom, I was like, I think I'm going to sell my car. And she's like, what are you talking about? Like, this is your dream car. You just got this a week ago. I'm like, yeah, but why do I need it? I was like, it doesn't bring me any happiness. It doesn't fulfill me. Like, it is a materialistic object that does not impact my life in a negative or positive way. Like, do I love it? Does it look great? Yeah. Is it super fast? Yes. But why do I need this? And she was like, you deserved it. Like, you deserved it. And I sat there and pondered for like I got quotes to sell it. And then I was like, well, I'm going to lose money if I sell it. So I guess I shouldn't sell it. But I was really like, I feel like once you obtain something and like you disassociate from money and you get the thing that you want, once you have it, it's not as exciting as it is in your mind before you have it.
Yeah.
And like for me, that was a really like humbling moment because I was like, I can afford this car and I did earn this car, but like I don't need this car. And it was a really interesting moment. Like it in that moment has still stuck with me. Because I still to this day and I'm like, I really don't need that car. Like I had a 2020 like all-wheel drive upgraded Altima. Like I was fine. Those seats were like recliners. I was good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's like the disassociation from money and objects. And then it makes the journey more enjoyable because you're not like, I need to close this deal so I can buy something ridiculous. Like it makes it more of like a it makes it like you're kind of like just playing a game with
Yeah.
yourself to see how much you can do without like necessarily acquiring things from putting in the work.
Yeah, no, 100%. Now, you always hear that, the journey, the beauties in the journey, right? Whatever, however the
Mhm.
quotes go, it's just like
Yeah, it's not about the destination, it's about the
nation
journey.
journey, exactly. But like, you never really feel it until you actually experience it in real life, like, and so I've been doing a lot of car searching, trying to figure out like what my dream car would be. Because honestly, I got a Honda Accord. I got at least another 120,000 miles in there. So it's like
Yeah, I do
that.
too.
I got a 2012 Honda Accord. That will drive me until I'm at
Forever.
least 30, minimum 35, if I take good care of it, right? And I'm about to turn 23 in a few months. So it's like, but I want to also have something that like just to say like, hey, let me chase after this, just to like give me a little extra pep in my step. Because you
It
have to
does show your success.
not even just that, but you also have to like sometimes you have to because like in sports, right, in basketball. like when you're playing in high school, it's like you have states, right? You have playoffs, right? You have things that you're shooting for. But when you're in business and money isn't the end all be all for you, it's like, well, what else what can I use to like put some artificial urgency in me? Because if, especially if you don't need the money, like if you get to a point where, like, as you said, you're coasting, well, it's like, well, then you can just keep on coasting. Now your drive goes away. So you like kind of have to find ways to creatively keep that drive up, because like
And
working
that's
at
why I
least
just keep buying real estate.
exactly.
I get
And so like
excited about the deal. I'm like I never thought I would ever be like, that is a beautiful building. Like if I
yeah,
see a brick building, I'm like, that is a beautiful building. Like I don't even know who says that. I don't know.
yeah,
Like I got that from my business partners for sure. And I'm just like, because I remember like before I was owning stuff, I was like, it's a beautiful building. Like
it's a
it's
building.
not a car or like a purse, but a
Yeah,
building, like no. So I think for me, that's like my outlet is like
yeah,
now I'm like, okay, let's just see how many assets I can own instead. Like forget the money. Like I just invest all my money short term. Like literally it's all I do is invest my money.
yeah.
Um, like my goal this year is to make 100K just by being like a private money lender.
That's
So
fire.
like I don't need it's not like I'm walking around buying a Louis Vuitton bag every other day. Would
You're
that
just
be
playing
nice?
a game. You're just playing a game, having
I'm
fun
just
with it.
playing the game. I
Yeah,
don't
no,
keep
100%.
track of how much I make or anything. Like I have no freaking clue until my tax lady sends me over. I don't know what the hell I made that year.
Yeah,
Clueless.
man,
But
that's amazing. Hmm?
it works for me. People think I'm
Yeah,
crazy, but it works for me. Like I know I'm making more than what I spend and whatever. Like I'm making well beyond what I need to live off of. So
and you're investing, so that money is
exactly.
growing. That's dope.
Exactly.
I was looking into cars, and so I was looking into like Mercedes, like I was looking into the Maybach and the S class, you know, the Maybach, and now I
Kind
was
of
looking into Rolls Royce, and I was looking into I was actually looking into a Porsche 911 at the S Turbo edition. They go I was like I was looking at Lexus too, because like my big thing is like, as much as I would want to like, you know, a nice car, quote unquote, like
yeah.
one of my key like I like reliability, because
Yes.
like for example, I would never drive a BMW. I don't care how nice people think
Don't
they
get a
are.
BMW or an Audi if you like
Yeah,
reliability. Or a
yeah.
Range Rover.
Yeah, no worry. Yeah, I wasn't planning on doing any of those because I want something reliable, but something that's also nice. But it's something that can also push a little bit, right? If I step on the gas on the highway, I want to like I need my head to jolt back a little bit,
Oh,
you know?
mine does. I scared the crap out of my mom. My poor mom on the way home. My dad's like, make sure you floor it and clean out the engine. Like I put some like sea foam in it and my
Hmm.
dad's like, make sure you just floor it. And I freaking hit it and we're both like, she's like,
Yeah,
Marley, we're going 116 miles an hour. Slow down. I'm like, we're fine. This is fun.
just cruising speed. We're not even really pushing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, Carly, well, it's been great catching up with you. Where can we find you at? Where can we connect with you if we want to get more of what you got going on and potentially become a partner in one of your deals? Like, how can we get more of what you have going on?
Here, yeah, come lend, whether you want a short-term lend or you want to get into the actual portfolio building partnership aspect of what we have, which is literally probably the coolest investing strategy I've ever seen. It's just trying to make investing automatic for people. Um, in my name in here is my Instagram, that's my Facebook, and my LinkedIn. Um, you can reach me through there, and then on there
For
you
anyone
will
in
get.
the audio, let us know what is it.
Oh, right. Not everyone's watching us. RE, like real estate with Carly, Karly. So you can, even if you just type in Carly Worth on Google with a K, you'll be able to find all my social media links.
All right, and now it's time for our famous five. Same five question hacks every single guest, and because I think I started doing this last year, so I definitely didn't ask you
No,
when you first
I
started.
did this because I
You did?
remember.
Oh, I know.
Mhm.
I had something different. I changed the questions up since I first started.
Okay, well, let me
Yeah,
see.
yeah. So I had when I first did an interviews, I was doing I forget what I asked. Honestly, I should probably listen back to that and see what I asked you.
One of them was, "What's your favorite childhood show?" I remember that.
Oh yeah, that was like it was personal. It was like, what would your DJ name be? What's your favorite food or something like that? Yeah, this
Yeah.
is more a little more thought into these ones, right? And
Okay,
not
I'm
as
ready.
many, right? They're not curveballs, by the way. No worries, so no worries. But question number one is, what is the most impactful lesson you've learned in life?
Whew. Um, where you start is not where you need to end. I think that like just wherever your journey began, no matter what your circumstances were growing up or your childhood, like you can still make it to the top.
Hmm. What is the most admirable trait a person can have?
Reliability.
Just like my Honda.
Reliability, 100%. That is like my most important trait for anyone I associate with.
Hmm. If you had to change someone's life but only had one book, which book would you recommend?
Ooh, the Four Agreements.
And you kind of alluded to this earlier, but to ask the question anyways, what is the legacy that you're working on on leaving behind?
Being a fair, God fearing business owner that didn't have to cheat or screw people over to make it.
And for anyone that wants to embark on their walk to wealth today, what is the first step you recommend they take?
Be intentional with the people that you surround yourself with and come up with a really solid morning routine that you follow like there's no tomorrow. Like that is the most important staple in your life.
Amazing. Well, Carly, it's great catching up with you. Great
Yes.
seeing you again. And we definitely got to do another one. So everyone listening, there will be another one. So we got some
Just
stuff
the one
in
who
the
never
works.
goes away.
100%. All right, Carly.